Just wanted to do a little video showing us playing around with some of our 648s around here. We've got multiple 648s. This is a backhoe that's, I don't want to say rough shape, but we picked it up. Needs a fair amount of work, but we've just been using it as is. It definitely needs some TLC. It's very loose. Here I'm recording and running this thing with one hand. It takes a little while to get used to these six backhoes after running joystick excavators and whatnot. So it's not as smooth or whatever as it could be. The joysticks make them much smoother anyways, but these D100 backhoes are very impressive. This is a small full-size backhoe machine, and same backhoe you find on the Case skid steers and many other skid steers, and the smaller Case utility tractors and utility loaders, utility backhoes had the Davis D100 backhoe. One thing I just want you to know, we'll just pay attention to these tires on this machine digging. These are awesome ag tires, and they just dig and dig and dig. Unlike the skid steer R4s or the original ag tires that came with these machines, just pay attention and you'll see the difference. That's a rugged machine. That backhoe and loader that you saw there was roughly, I think they're roughly right around 3,000 pounds, depending on how much counterweight. That's a lot on one of these little machines. They're full underslung counterweights and subframes for mounting. Rear end's a little different with wider axles and gusseted rear ends and stuff than the loader, basic loader rear ends, but very similar to being the same machine. This machine we restored last year. I have not touched the relief valves. They do need to get adjusted. They are set a little low. I can feel it and see it, but it does well. The one thing I did want to put this clip in here for, obviously this machine handles this decently, but that's a huge stump that's been in the ground probably for 10 years, rotting. It's got stones in the roots, and it's extremely wet and heavy. But if you noticed, this machine in the beginning, those tires dig. These people talk about their skid steer tires and their R4s and how they like them. That's because they never had good ag tires. The factory ag tires that were on these things were okay. The modern technology ag tires are just leaps and bounds above. The skid steer tires are okay on hard ground. They do last. They are stronger as far as puncture resistance. But the skid steer tires, they don't dig, they don't clean out. These ag tires are way to go on a loader if you're on any kind of soft or wet ground, snow, whatever. And you'll see here these tires dig and just clean out. But here we're moving this thing. If you look at that thing's pretty close to the size of this machine. Right now it's up on about a 45-degree angle, going up about 3-4 foot short elevation change. The camera doesn't pick it up, but if you pay attention, you'll see throughout the video how high that tractor is. That tractor is now about 3 to 4 feet higher than where that stump started. So we're just cleaning up around here, making some room. I'm actually making a small loading dock here so we can load right up onto pickup trucks or flatbed stuff, and that's why there is that 3 or 4 foot elevation, and we end up turning it into a pretty nice loading dock. Don't try this at home. Don't do what I do. It's not safe, not smart. Disclaimer. Do it the right way. And here we'll just dig out another stump, another big one. Running this machine roughly, I think we're probably around half throttle, give or take. With the big pumps on these things, you don't need to be much more unless you actually need the actual power. Then you can crank them up some more, but usually normal digging, half throttle gets most of it done. The later 6000 series, 7000 had woods backhoes. They're a lighter backhoe. They have the joystick controls. That manner they're nice, but they're just nowhere near as rugged as these D100s, but they are a little bit lighter and probably easier on the machine itself. These machines will dig roughly almost 9 feet down. They've got a lot of breakout force. They got big cylinders on them. The travel bracket dropped, and me being lazy just didn't get off, and it's dangling, and yeah, don't want to hear about it. And you can see that Jersey barrier, and you can see to the left the top of that loading dock, the elevation, the height, and that's where we're pushing these stumps up, and it's a pretty steep angle. It just the camera just doesn't pick it up very well most of the time. If we were pushing these stumps on the flat, they'd go 1, 2, 3. This machine's digging it out. It's been buried in this pile, I guess, probably 10 years. We didn't put it there, but I know it's been there for at least that. And it's soaked, it's wet, it's heavy. And I think you can see in a couple of shots the roots are around big boulders and stuff, so they're solid. Again, first time with these multi-control sticks in many years. I used to run back in the day. This is all Backhoes had, but you get to the joystick backhoes and excavators, and they're much more smoother and efficient, and you get used to them, and then you go back to these old school ones, and it takes a little while to get used to them again. Got it out. And the swing motors on these things are actually pretty good, and with the gear setup they've got. That's actually not a swing motor, it's a piston and essentially a gear setup. But let's go move this one again back with the loader. And I just need to adjust our relief valve, that way we can pick things up. But I think right now it'll probably pick up close to 800-900 pounds. But we'll adjust the relief and we'll get it more. It's more than the factory rated, but if you use your head, the hydraulics usually aren't the issue. It's usually the ass end coming off the ground of the tractor. But we've got 750 pounds in the weight box on this machine, plus the tires loaded, plus me, so there's a lot of weight sitting on the back of that machine, so the back doesn't hardly come up. The relief does kick in, but I want to adjust the relief a little bit more because I know she's set a little bit low. And now we're trying to push this up the ramp. Again, you just watch those tires, those big wide tires in the back, and they'll dig. They clean out. The skid steer tires just won't do that. Just asking a lot for this thing going up that steep angle and that heavy thing. And obviously the ground's soft. Fixing the ramp a little bit. This machine's got the R4 skid steer brand new tires on it, and a couple other shots you'll see later in the video where these tires just don't do much. This machine's also weighted down quite a bit, but now we don't have the extra fork sticking out of there. The shorter bucket, the lift capacity is better since it's in closer to the machine. And pack this ramp down a little bit, and we'll get that stump out of the way. This is a 648, actually we just recently sold, but we've had this for a few years, and this has been our go-to loader machine. Been a great machine. Again, another one, because it's ours, they get neglected a little bit. We just put fuel in it and checked fluids and did some bare minimal stuff to it, and it's just been a real loyal machine. And here we are just cleaning up this area. Getting some of the debris out of there, the dirt and the rocks and the rest of the stumps. It's got two sets of wheel weights and a box full of rocks and stone, and I think there's a little bit of metal in there. And I believe the tires on the machine were loaded too, so there's a fair amount of weight back there. The puffs of smoke you see coming out of here is actually oil from the cylinders dripping on the muffler, not coming out of the engine. We've got another 648 that we ended up keeping that we're hopefully going to restore this summer to replace this machine that we sold. But it went to a good home. Sad to see it go, but happy knowing she went to a good home. The pile was packed in there pretty good. And cleaned up fairly nice, and now it's a nice loading dock that's set up pretty well. Made some big changes. Here's the same machine. This big rock, like again, probably the size of the tractor, hefty. It's sitting down a 4-foot plus embankment. You can kind of see it, and it's hung up on some rocks here. But these, you can see these tires. They just do not want to bite compared to the ag tires. And because she's down in the hole, she can use a little bit more weight. The rear end doesn't want to come off when you start lifting. But if these tires would bite, it would rip that thing out of there. But tires just aren't gripping on here. This is actually some pretty hard ground it's sitting on too. It's a little soft because it was raining. It rained recently, but there's a lot of rock and gravel underneath. But they just won't dig into it. Again, the tractor's downhill, the rock's down in the hole. Probably asking more than you should for a machine this size, but didn't want to say no either. Oh, she's out of the hole. Again, the lifting and the power wasn't the issue, it was just traction. It's a really nice stone. Wanted to get it out of the hole and use it for some landscaping here. Making some room for some more equipment too. But again, you just see those tires spinning and spinning. Could have swapped the bucket onto the other machine with the better tires, but didn't feel like screwing around with it. We'd get it sooner than later. Foot at a time. Again, once you get a little bit of bite, the machines will push. Just a matter of getting the bite, and these R4 tires have trouble on anything that's just not really hard and packed. There you go, it's a little more packed over here, and they grab and go. If you're working on asphalt and concrete, these R4s do great. They're a little harder to ride, and they wear better, but again, just struggling. And a lot of guys like them and stuff, and like I said, it's just most of them have never had any good ags to compare them to. The factory ags from the 70s and 80s just that came on these machines weren't great either, but they were better traction than these. But the modern ags are just well worth the investment. And our new machine, or not our new machine, but the machine we're going to restore this year, we've got a whole different tire setup than anything else we've got on these. It's going to be pretty neat. We're pretty excited about. Right over here there's a wire that's covered. That's why I wanted to lift it up and didn't want to push it over that wire. The front tires are over it now, so we got it lifted up over the wire. And I didn't want to go spinning the tires on the wire. We got a little cover on it right now. We drove over and there she goes. Now we're getting into some of the millings, and you'll notice because it's harder, the tractor's got a little more bite, and that's all she takes, and it's moving it just fine now. But because we're on the packed millings, nothing else essentially changed. Same rock, same tractor. Just the ground's harder, and these tires finally got a little something to grab to. That's hard. And then once you get on the more packed material, just moving right along now, no worries. Just a little fun video. Just playing around with the 648s, doing some stuff. Be sure to subscribe, and appreciate you guys watching.